Peace and blessings, family. I want to talk to you about a trick that the enemy uses that is extremely subtle but is very effective. And I want you to understand that when I speak about, like, quote unquote, the enemy, I'm not speaking about a particular person. I'm talking about an energy that fills empty vessels or vessels with holes and spaces that are not protected. I'm speaking in code a little bit, but if you know, you know. Kind of like the Matrix. Remember when any person could be an agent at any time. Okay, so I'm talking about an energy that hops around from person to person, although it can also stick with people for a long time as well. So it might look like we're being attacked by a certain person, but really we're being attacked by an energy that's working through that person, right? Okay, so this enemy energy that moves from person to person knows that we have figured it out. We are waking up. We are recognizing the signs. Narcissists, narcissism, they are huge buzzwords right now. So we've gotten really good at not putting up with certain things, at improving our boundaries, protecting our peace, not accepting toxic behaviors, not getting caught up in other people's projections and bullshit, walking away from situations that hurt us, all of it. Our eyes have opened in so many ways, and it has made it much harder for us to be abused or manipulated. Okay, but we need to understand that our strength at this point, it really pisses the enemy off. Because our wisdom and protection is forcing the enemy to either evolve or die. So I'm here to say, y'all, the enemy is evolving. It knows it can't outright defeat us anymore, okay? It knows it can't win. So it's going to settle for the next best thing. And so the enemy has decided to settle for losing. They're like, okay, it's cool if I lose, as long as you lose too. Okay, let me say that again. The enemy has switched up its focus from trying to win to trying to make sure that you lose. The enemy has accepted that it will never be greater than you. So it has resolved to making sure that you never reach your full potential. Okay, let that sink in for a minute. So how does this work? Okay, what does this look like? What signs should we look for in people, places, and things that the enemy would be using to make sure that we never reach our full potential? Okay, but before we answer that question, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Because before we get really clear on what reaching our full potential looks like, it's only when you are sure about where you're going that you can become aware of the people, places, and things that hold you back. Okay, so we have to kind of get an idea of what does reaching our full potential look like? What does that feel like? Okay, and you could be thinking right now, you could be like, oh, Bria, what the hell are you talking about? Nobody's holding me back. I am reaching my full potential. Nobody's stopping me from doing it. Everything's fine. Everything's chill. Everything's calm. Life is good. And that's cool. If that's how you feel, that's cool. Okay, but keep listening, okay? Because there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'm trying to remind you of is it's supposed to be better than chill. It's supposed to be better than fine, okay? It's supposed to be better than calm right now. Yeah, so it's like, that's the question about your full potential is it's not supposed to be baseline. It's not supposed to be survival. This is supposed to be your winning season, right? That's what I started off this video by saying, is that we have won, okay? So if you have won something, if you have overcome hella obstacles that were meant to break you. If you got rid of the people, places, and things that was wearing you out, tearing you down, if you've studied, you've gotten better, faster, stronger, smarter, okay, that means at this point in the game, you should be seeing results of that. You should be winning, not just cool, not just chill, but winning. So what does winning look like? Okay, let's remind ourselves for a minute. It looks like people cheering you on. It looks like congratulations, celebrations, prizes, like actually winning stuff, gifts. It looks like doors opening. It looks like opportunities, endorsements, support, appreciation. That's what winning looks like. So if that's not happening in our lives right now, we have to ask ourselves why. Because it's a very subtle thing that I'm talking about. It's a very subtle energy that the enemy is using right now. Okay, I want you to think about this for a second. Okay, imagine that you played in a championship game and your team won. Okay, but then imagine that maybe you're blind. So you've never actually seen your own team, and maybe you've never seen the opposing team either. Okay, but you know that your team won. Okay, and then imagine after the game, your team, say you go to the bathroom, right? And you're in the bathroom too long, and then while you're gone, your team accidentally gets on the bus and leaves you at the stadium because they gone on to celebrate and you missed the bus. Okay, imagine you come out of the bathroom, like I said, you're blind, you don't know that your bus is left. So all that you know is that you're still you're still at the stadium, and you expect to be part of a team. Okay, you still think that you're with your team, and you know that your team is the winning team, but you don't know that your team left. But what you do notice is that the people that you're around, the people who you think are your team, they're kind of subdued. They're not celebrating. They're not, they're not sad either. They're just cool, right? But that's because they're the losing team. They're not your people. So it's like we could be in a phase of our lives where the only way that you're going to notice that you're around the enemy is that they're not the winning team. Okay? And so the way that you're going to know that somebody is part of the winning team is the way that they act. If you're around people who are not excited, right? Who are kind of nonchalant, who everything is just cool, right? Excuse me. If you're not aware that that's not your team, you could suppress yourself trying to fit in with the culture of the team that you think is your team. So then you play it nonchalant. You chill out. You act like winning is no big deal. Well, you're acting like winning is no big deal, but the difference between you and them is that you actually won. They didn't. And that's what you don't know about them. Okay? The enemy is getting to the point where it's subtle, and it's like in the absence of things rather than the presence of things. That's where the evidence lies. Okay? So here's the thing. If you are around people who are losers, who you don't know are losers because you're a winner, and somehow you're in a position where you're not around winners, there's a whole side note in that I'm just thinking about okay, that's a different story for another day. But anyway, like I was saying, if you're around people who you're winning, and these could be people that you don't even know that you're in a competition with. Let's say that, okay. But if you're around people and you're winning, they know that you're winning. You're the one that doesn't know that you're a winner. Okay? They know that you're a winner. And they know that they can't beat you. They know that they have lost. And it could be a competition that you didn't even know that you were in. but they know that they lost. Okay. So what they're going to do is the next best thing is they're going to try to keep you from feeling like a winner. They can't win, but they can make sure that you feel like a loser, right? They can make sure that you don't enjoy feeling like a winner. So the way that they do that is by keeping you from celebrating, right? It's not that they're going to outright deceive you, okay? In the case of the story I was given, the scenario where you missed the bus, right? It's not their fault that you missed the bus. It's not their fault that you didn't know to go be around other winners or to stay with the winners. It's not that their fault that you didn't know that. But they're also not going to help you get where you're supposed to be. Okay? Why would they? They want you. It's like the only joy that they can get at this point is to keep you from knowing that you've won. So that's what they're going to do. Okay? So that's the enemy's new game. Instead of trying to beat us, because it can't beat us, is going to pretend like we're on the same team. And then slowly sabotage our idea of what winning is supposed to feel like. And if we stick around them long enough, we'll end up brainwashed into believing that winning feels like losing. That winning feels like nothing happened at all. So like even with hella accomplishments under our belt, even like we know that we've won, we know that we've done certain things, that we've overcome things, that we've hit milestones, whatever it is, we're still going to feel like losers. We're going to feel invisible because it's like we're not around people who would acknowledge that. And it's confusing because you think you want to be like your team because your team is not like you, if that makes any sense. So it takes a little while to figure out. Gone are the days where the enemy's going to argue with you, going to criticize you, insult you, challenge you, go against you. The enemy has realized that being a bully doesn't work. Okay, we've gotten too strong, we've gotten too confident, too self-aware, we're enlightened. So it's like if the enemy was to be outright mean to us at this point, they would give themselves away as to what they really are, which is a person, place, or thing that carries an enemy energy. And it's an enemy energy that we've already defeated. So that makes it a fucking loser. Okay? So I'm going to break down 4 examples of enemy energy versus teammate energy so you can begin to recognize the people who are your people and the people who are not your people. Okay, number 1, teammates are transparent. Sometimes they're a little bit too transparent. They might even overshare. It's because they feel very safe with you. So they're going to spill their guts, right? They're going to tell you like super personal things about themselves because they figure that since you're on the same team that you will have had a lot of the same experiences. So it's almost like they don't feel like they're telling you their business. They feel like they're telling you your business because you've overcome the same battles. Okay? So, and again, this may not happen immediately with these people. This could happen over time, or just over time, you know that somebody's on your team because you know y'all been through the same shit. And you're like, wow, I've been through that. Yeah, I've been through that too. And it just becomes this mutual space of understanding and of similar experience. But that cannot happen if your teammate is not transparent with you. And that's how you know the difference between an enemy and a teammate, because enemies, they won't tell you shit no matter how long you've known them. Okay, there's just like this part about them where they're just not transparent with you. They're not open with you. Even if you like ask them specific questions, you still will never feel like you just kind of get at like the heart of their experience, of their emotions, of who they are as a person, of like what makes them tick. It's like they're just always kind of a mystery. Okay. And another thing with that, which is kind of disconcerting is that even though those people are like mysteries, like you never really feel like you really know everything about them, there's something about them that makes you want to tell them everything. Okay, they're so easy to talk to, they're so easy to spill their guts to. It's almost like they could hypnotize you like a snake charmer, where you just you just tell everything. And they just like take it all in. Yeah. That's okay, that's one difference. So teammates are transparent. They're gonna tell you their shit. You're gonna have common ground, but enemies are not. They're a little recalcitrant to be open with you. Okay. Number 2, not only are teammates hold on. I lost my place. Okay. Not only are teammates transparent, okay. Hold on, let me sip a little coffee. My voice getting dry. Okay. Not only are teammates transparent, okay, but they encourage you to learn from their mistakes. So this is like the hallmark of a winner, okay? Winners are people who fail, but they're successful because they keep trying. And they keep trying until they get the lesson. And so they have wisdom, like they get the wisdom the situations have to offer. And then once they get that wisdom, they don't mind being accountable. They don't mind talking about the ways that they've messed up in the past, because they understand that like there was wisdom in the journey, there's wisdom in the lesson, and they pass those lessons on. They don't want to see other people go through the same things that they have went through. But this also makes them like very non-judgmental, because they have the way that they have applied their wisdom, it has changed them, and so they have faith that other people can change. Right? So they're transparent about that, okay? Enemy energy, on the other hand, is different. They try not to make mistakes. They try not to appear as though they've made mistakes. So they don't really have wisdom to offer, because it's like they're not really adventurous. Like they don't, and they haven't learned from their mistakes, even if they are. They avoid struggles, they avoid problems, they avoid like hard choices and hard situations. So they haven't really overcome anything, because they haven't had to conquer anything. And even if they did, like, were forced into situations where they had to face some sort of a hardship, they're not usually the ones who overcome in the story. They're usually the ones that gave up. They're usually the ones that lost, or the ones that like made a poor investment and didn't like learn from it, and like, you know what I mean, like, or chose wrong or something like that. So you'll notice that if people like that, if they give you advice, it's like untested advice. It's unvetted advice. It's not advice based on their experiences. It's just like what everybody else is saying, or what they think that they should be saying. Okay. You'll also notice that people like that, they don't practice what they preach. Okay. And you'll just notice that if they are telling you stories about situations that they've had in the past, it's hard for them to self-reflect on the situations. They don't really explain. They don't really provide like a balanced view, like how both people were in the wrong, or you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like, it's always like this us versus them situation. And if you kind of dig into that, or like suggest certain changes that they could make, they will argue why those changes were not possible or were not necessary. It's just like there's just this blockage where wisdom should be. Okay. So, yeah. Number 3, teammates will have certain habits that they have developed over time that help them have a winning strategy, or a strategy to survive. And they will want to share those methods of success with other people. with sometimes without other people even having to ask. This is what you could call, like in religious circles, you could call this like a testimony. Some people call it a purpose. Whatever it is, they want, like, they feel driven to add value to the world in this way by like sharing this perspective that they have inside of them, that they have developed over time. And so they'll want to share that with other people. They're not going to see themselves in competition with you, because they're going to feel like you guys should be on the same team. You're on the winning team. So they want you to win because you're on the winning team. So they're going to give you tools to help you win. Okay. So if they do criticize you or like redirect you, it's coming from a place of like, I want to see you better, and I've made that mistake before, and I want to see you win, and I don't want to see you go through, what I've been through. It's like from a very like open-hearted space. So it comes from a place of support. If you are engaged in a situation that a teammate has never dealt with before, they would give you advice like based off a way that lets them know that they see you and they support you. So like, say if you're going through something like that they've never gone through before, you would just, you could tell, a teammate would say something like, you've always been a person of great faith, and that they know that that's going to support you. Or like, well, you're so smart, and I know that you can figure this out. Or you're so good at like whatever it is that you're good at. Like, they'll see that and amplify that within you to help give you faith that you can get through whatever it is that you have to go through, right? They'll help you tap into your strength. And they'll tell you to trust yourself, even if what you decide goes against what they would decide, okay? Because they respect your process and they respect your journey. Excuse me. Enemy energy is a little bit different, okay? They don't always like it when you trust yourself. They kind of like it when you doubt yourself, when you doubt whether or not you're doing the right thing, when you're a little bit insecure, when you check in with them. They like it when you like seek their approval and validation, because then they can give it to you or then they can take it away, and then they have power over you. So even if you're dealing with a situation that they've never dealt with before, they would not tell you to trust yourself. They would tell you to trust them. Like, they would still try to figure out a way to give you advice off some shit that they have never experienced, but that's because that's what they're used to, because they haven't really experienced a lot of things anyway. So like, their advice isn't coming from like a heart place of experience anyway. It's coming from a head place. And so in their head, they're going to want to be in control. Maybe not in control, but just in a winning position. I don't want to say control. I don't want to put that aspect on it, because this is just more so about winning. If you do what they said to do and it works, then they won. If you do what they said to do and it doesn't work, they still won because it didn't work. So you kind of lost, which means they won. If you do something different than what they said and it works, then they lost. You see what I'm saying? If you do something different than what they said and it doesn't work, but something else works, then they lost. Or if you're okay with that, then they lost. It's just like, it's so many ways for them to lose. So it's the ways that they have to win is just to like, it's like emotional manipulation, like just instilling like little seeds of doubt, just being like, are you sure? Like, I don't know about, stuff like that. But they don't like tap into your strengths. Like, okay, I feel like you understand what I'm saying. The other thing too is like, if they have methods of success, even if even if they're not completely like successful, like, but if they still have ways that they know that they could help you, they would not tell you. They're not gonna want you to have a way to be better than them. So that's kind of like a gatekeeping thing where, you know, your teammate wants you to win, right? But an enemy doesn't. So, like I said, it's not so much in them bullying you or like trying to fuck up your confidence, right? They just wouldn't tell you, you know what I mean? It'd just be opportunity that they just don't tell you about, that they just don't mention to you. Yeah. Yeah, they won't give you they won't give you the tools to make your life easier. And when you are doing things your way and you're winning, that's when they will criticize you. And it's not, sometimes it's not like an outright criticism like oh God, what are you doing? Sometimes it's a criticism like, well, you've been so busy, you know, like you don't have time for me, or you know, I feel neglected. It's that kind of thing. Like they want you to include them as important, but it's not from a space of care for you. It's from a space of distraction from your purpose. They just want you to doubt in any kind of way that they can make you doubt, whether it's you feel like you're being selfish, you feel like you're neglecting people, you feel like you're neglecting your kids, you feel like whatever it is, they just want you to like pull your energy back and stop trying so hard. Do something else, do something different. Yeah, but when you are, well, I don't want to get into that. Yeah. Okay. So, number 4, teammates are usually busy. Okay. The people who are winning and who want you to win, they have shit to do. They don't have a lot of extra time on their hands. They're for good or for bad, right? They're striving, they're improving, they're trying, sometimes they're failing, they're succeeding. The point is that they're constantly in flux. Like they have their systems, they have their cycles, they're invested in their purpose, and that keeps them busy no matter what their purpose is. They're involved in the process of doing good, honest work. Okay, so they don't have a lot of free time. So that's the thing about teammates, is they can leave you feeling kind of lonely actually, but it's because they're doing their work, so why aren't you? Okay? And they may not check in with you often, but when they do, they're going to be curious about what's been going on with you, and they're going to share what's been going on with them. Yeah, you're both winners, so you'll both have reasons to congratulate and appreciate what the other person has been doing. So it's like, it's not a competition because we're both winning. We both have things going on. But enemies, okay, losers, they're not typically busy. They rarely have anything going on. So this isn't to say, and sometimes teammates won't too. Sometimes teammates will have downtime. They'll be resting. They won't have anything, you know, going on. Everybody needs a break from time to time. But the difference is when teammates rest, they rest in every way, meaning they're not going to be resting, but then calling you up and trying to figure out what's going on with you. When they rest, they rest. Okay, so they may not be sharing what's going on with them, but they're also not inquiring what's going on with you either. It's still like a match of energy. On the other hand, an enemy will be bored, right? Not really resting because they don't really have anything to rest from, because they don't really do a lot. The enemy is actually pretty restless because they don't really have a purpose. Their purpose is to just, I can't get into that, but I just know that the enemy is restless. They don't really have a purpose. So the thing is, they'll be really curious about you, right? What are you doing? What are you going on? What do you got going on? What's going on with you, right? But then they don't really have a lot going on. They're like looking for stuff. Okay. If you do have good things going on, right? If you tell them your good news, because winners always have some sort of good news, you'll notice these things from the enemy, okay? They'll go quiet, or the conversation will get dry. They'll change the subject, or maybe suddenly they'll cut you off. They'll have better news or something more dramatic or more exciting. or they gotta go, or maybe they congratulate you, but like I said, it's kind of dry. So like they don't really ask you any follow-up questions. They don't ask details. Like they're not curious about it for you, about what's going on with you. Or they'll criticize the opportunity in some type of way. They'll like pick it apart. They'll find a way to say, oh, that's not their thing. That's not their preference. So in other words, they either like ignore your good news or they shit on it some type of way. And if they are happy for it, it's because they know that they'll benefit from it in some way by being associated with you. So that's like somebody who like, will get excited. Say if you get tickets to a concert, they'll be excited because you invite them, right? But if you tell them that you go to a concert that you didn't invite them to, then they'll be like, oh, I don't really like that singer. You know what I mean? Like, enemy energies, it's hard for them to be happy for you if they cannot benefit from you, if they cannot use you in some type of way. Okay. Yeah. But here's the thing. Remember what I said in the beginning. I said that enemy energy is just that. It's energy. Remember that. It's energy. There are no actual enemies. People who display enemy energy towards you are vessels who could not keep the enemy energy from entering them. They've been taken over, okay? They're unprotected. So for however long, they couldn't stop that little bit of hate from entering their heart and influencing their actions. And the thing is that while that energy is on them, they're also enemies to themselves. They hate themselves as much as they hate you. None of us are perfect. We have all been teammates to people in our lives, and we have all been enemies to people in our lives. It's not personal. It's just Earth. It's just where we are. And Earth has seasons. And if you're listening to this message and you resonate with this message, then you are in your winning season. And you need to find your teammates. And you have to get away from losers who will convince you that you are not winning by the fact that they refuse to celebrate for you or with you or appreciate you or pay attention to you. You have done amazing things that deserve to be seen, celebrated, honored, and congratulated. And if the people around you are not able to reflect that back to you, if they're not being vocal and enthusiastic about your new life, then you are around enemies. And sometimes we can't help but be around enemies because sometimes they're our family, sometimes they're our friends. Like I said, the enemy is not personal. It's an energy that needs to be close to you in order to survive, because otherwise, how could it hold you back? So we can only be led astray by those that we trust. We can only be stifled by those who are close enough to smother us. We can only be ignored and made to feel invisible by those who we desperately want to witness our presence. We can only be made to feel small by those who we want to validate our growth. So to turn against the enemy would be to turn against our love. To turn against the enemy would be to turn against our hearts. Okay? And maybe this is why Jesus said to love our enemies. Of course we love our enemies. That's all we ever do. Okay? So speaking of Jesus, do y'all know the parable about the wheat and the tares? Okay? It's from the book of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 24 through 30. And it says, Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. And the owner's servants said to him and said, Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from? An enemy did this, he replied. And the servants asked him, Do you want us to go and pull them up? No, he answered, because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them into bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn. Can you see how this Bible verse is what we've been talking about the whole time? We are the wheat and the enemy is the weeds. And we have been planted side by side with one another, the wheats and the weeds, since the beginning of time. And the truth of who we really are is the seed within us. But until that seed grows and ripens and flowers, the teammates, okay, which is the other wheat, is going to look exactly the same as the enemy, as the weeds. Until wheat ripens, it looks exactly like the weed. So you don't know the difference. You're not going to know the difference. The only way that you're going to know the difference between who are the people who are your teammates, who are the winners with you, and the people who are the weeds, who are the losers among you. The only way that you're going to know the difference is based on what the other produces. So you have to ask yourself, these people in your life who are so slow to see you, to congratulate you, to acknowledge you, to honor you, to celebrate you, to give you the opportunity to do the same for them. What are they producing? Okay? So the harvest is when it is time to show the world what you have produced. When it is time to show the world what are your gifts. There's a time coming where that's the only way that we're going to be able to survive, is by using our gifts, by using what we have created. Okay? That's the point of wheat, is to make food. The weeds, the enemy, they know that they can't grow anything. They know that they don't really produce anything. They know that they look like they do. But they also know that they actually don't. Okay? And it's only a matter of time before we know it in a deeper way, because we're going to be producing things, and it's going to be beside the weeds that are not. Okay? Now, so in the meantime, though, those weeds are going to do everything that they can do to hold you back, to make you feel stifled, to keep you from reaching towards the sun. They're going to want you to relax, to chill out, drop down a bit, stop striving so much, okay? They might say at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything, winning, losing, it's all the same, right? Everything's all the same, that's what they say. They say there's no point in trying to be different and striving. We're all the same, we're all one, shit like that. Okay. But that's because for them, no matter what they do, they're not going to produce anything. No matter what they do, they still have the seed of a weed. And they can't change the fact that they were planted to thwart the wheat. But they were not planted to produce and to thrive. Okay. They were planted to be a blockage, and they know that. So you can't be worried about them, okay? You can't be worried about what somebody who may or may not be a teammate, and if you have to wonder, they're probably not, okay? You can't worry about them. You have to keep growing, keep pushing, keep changing, keep showing off what you have produced. Keep producing, keep reaching. And don't stop striving and being splendid until you are gathered, until you are harvested by virtue of the irrepressibility of your magnificence. Okay? Don't stop striving until your teammates show up for you, until they find you. Because you out here showing off and showing out and being visible. And celebrating your damn self and congratulating your damn self and learning from your mistakes and continuing on and continuing to grow. And there is that feeling. I understand, like being around weeds, it can make you want to blend in, but you cannot. You have to stand out. This is the time to stand out. This is the time to get harvested. This is the time to show what you have made, who you are, what you have done, what you are about. Because that is the thing that's going to set you apart from the weeds. That's all I got to say about that. I'm going to talk to y'all later. Peace.